Jesse Engel, what's going on?
Not much, just out here on the beach, living life.
That's right. Demetrius Gelatis here. Hey, so yeah, I joined the Zoom call with Jesse and I just cracked up because he had this virtual background and I know I'm like 20 years behind. I know this is like old news, but yeah, here I am. So I thought I would follow suit. So I appear to be orbiting. I'm orbiting.
There you go.
Anyway, what's new, Jesse? What's on your mind?
Yeah, not much, man. It's just been working a lot. Last time we did a podcast, I was out in Pennsylvania having the baby, and now we're back home, almost
That's
four
right.
months in, or a little bit over 4 months in.
Yeah,
And,
congratulations again. I'm
yeah.
glad everything went well. So, except for the tournament. but
Yeah. Oh, shit, man. Yeah, that was pretty rough, but I haven't really hit many pool balls since then, really. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So a couple things that are coming up today on our little pod is we are going to be talking about a couple miscellaneous issues that come up in people's games, and maybe you've got some troubleshooting advice. These have been things that have come up with my group of students. Um, so I should plug my coaching here for a moment, and then we're going to get into a little bit. I know it's a little bit late with the Mosconi Cup, but not just the Mosconi Cup, what happened, but like kind of certain things about pool and the direction of pool and some things that we wanted to talk about. So, first, I will share for anybody that doesn't know, I am a pool coach and I'm damn good. So if you want to get better, if 2026 is the year to make something happen in your pool game, there's two ways you can work with me. In person, I do 3-day pool boot camps. And I think that I'm available. I've got some availability, maybe a week in April. Then I'm kind of available like late spring. So I book out a little way. So if you want to get on my calendar, I usually get a lot of calls right after the new year. I still have a lot of flexibility for the spring and summer, but it goes fast. So please, if you are hungry, reach out to me. I will link my info below, but it is mnpoolbootcamp.com. MN stands for Minnesota, minnesotapoolbootcamp.com. So mnpoolbootcamp.com. And for people that aren't able to make the trip, whether it's time, money, or just the level of play you're at, I have an online group coaching, which is going really, really well. And you can also check that out through my website. And Yeah, $20 a month. And I've kind of worked you remotely through my playbook as well as doing some interactive troubleshooting. It's really, really awesome. And I would encourage you to participate. So that's my plug. Uh, with that said, let me just tell you two of the most recent issues that came up, Jesse, in this group. I've got some ideas, but I thought I'd get a second opinion.
Okay.
Somebody's dealing with unwanted sidespin. They're trying to get down, shoot shots in. When they shoot their stop shots, their cue ball's spinning a little bit of left spin, or they're missing their shot, and the cue ball's got spin on it. What's the problem? How do they fix it?
I mean, I would say they probably got to hit the cue ball closer to the center, would be my
Boom,
guess. So, I mean,
Jesse. This is
that's the story. So, yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of things that can cause that. That I just did explain what caused it, of course, but everybody knows that. Um, I think one thing is, even players, a lot of like players that are I don't want to say lower rated, but because I see this a lot with players that are even in like the Fargo like mid 600s where they have a pretty good stroke, it's pretty straight, but the way that they bridge, you can kind of see that the cue sits a little bit too loose in their hand on certain shots, right? Like I guess you would understand what I'm saying. Like your bridge isn't always the exact same, right? It's not always the exact same amount of inches away from the cue ball because you got the rails, the impeding balls, different things. And I don't think a lot of people sit and realize how many different little like nuanced bridges you have to still allow that stroke to come through very sturdy and very straight. So I think that a lot of times when people are getting unwanted side spin on it, it's partially due to the fact that maybe they're not getting down on the ball correctly, right in the dead center, like the heart of the cue ball, but also because of the variation in like forced, bridge variance, whatever you want to call that.
gotcha. So they may just their bridge may be a little wobbly. So they could test that by maybe bridging off the rail where they're it's going to be real stable and can't wiggle around too much, just to see if that's one of the variables that's affecting them.
Yeah, I mean, it's like everything, right? You test it, you practice plenty of times over and over. But what I would say, another thing too, is that when people are working on their fundamentals and their stroke, in general, they're always working on that on a wide open table where their cue ball set up 2 feet away from the object ball, and it's like that's great, right? But it's like you're practicing the same shot over and over, and you don't really think about how different your bridge is going to be once other impeding balls are on the or just a little bit of elevation here, a little bit of elevation there. It's there's just so many variants to it. So it's not something that you can just give an easy fix to. It's figure out like try to remember what types of shots, like where how your bridge was sitting and like the shots where you're kind of getting that unwanted spin more and then work on those. That's kind of complicated way to explain it, but
Okay,
hopefully
so let me hit you with what I was saying to them. This is what my coaching advice was. I think that the mistake people make is that they go right to eye dominance. They just assume it has to do with how they see the shot, or I don't know where my dominant eye is, or I can't see the center of the ball correctly. I think that's where everybody wants to go, and that's really rarely where I felt people have problems. Um, I think there's some good peripheral questions people can ask, like, is this something that comes up on all shots or just on some shots? Um, because if it was really an eye issue, then it would come up a lot more than just once in a while. But if it's happening on straight in shots, then what I've seen, the biggest culprit. I don't remember the last time I've used the word culprit, but anyway, the biggest culprit in my memory is people make big adjustments on their swing when they're after they bend over and get into the stance. So in other words, when people are working on their fundamentals, they're looking at the shot, then they get down, and then they start making these adjustments when they're down on the shot, and they start adjusting their aim, and they start adjusting where their swing is when they're down on the shot. And even if you get down dead center, but if you get down dead center and then start pivoting over your aim, well, now you're off center again. And that to me has been the biggest issue. And so my advice for people that are getting unwanted side spin is to do, set up a shot, whatever shot you want to work on, straight in shot, that's fine. And get down to the ball, and then don't make any adjustments. Don't take any practice strokes. Just deliver your swing and see what happens. Get down to the ball, deliver your swing. And this is not just for eliminating unwanted side spin. This could be for people that are, if people are struggling with straight in shots, and every time they shoot, they're cutting it into the rail and it's hanging up and they're getting frustrated. What people tend to do is they get down and then they spend more and more time second guessing, third guessing, fourth guessing, fifth guessing, grinding around until it's like they're fighting their body and they're fighting themselves and their confidence is terrible. And then it's like, oh, even if they make the ball, it's like they limp one in, but it doesn't feel good because, like, what are you going to play pool like that your whole life? And so I tell people just try just getting down and swinging. And if the ball misses, okay, that means you're not seeing it right standing up. That means you're not getting down on the ball right. But let's work on getting down on the ball until you can just plop down in the stance and swing your arm and it goes where you're looking. Because if you're not able to do that, then spending 30 seconds down on the shot, making 15, 20 different adjustments, that just doesn't scale into confident pool. And it also throws off your tip accuracy because all that squirming around is just messing with where your tip is. And so that's it. I just recommend, spending 5-10 minutes plopping down until you can. And if you're not at first, if you're getting down and the ball's missing and missing and missing, fine. But then little by little, you'll see, well, I've been getting down there. It hasn't been going. So let's try to get down a little different. And at some point, your body will figure out how to get down on the ball to where it goes in cleanly. And my prediction is once that ball starts going in cleanly, your cue ball will also be struck cleanly as well. Thoughts?
yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, obviously you have to get down in the shot line straight. I mean, maybe it's not obvious, but yeah, I mean, any movement in your body while you're down on the ball is not good. So
Well, and the
like you
way I
said,
saw this come up the most is there was a shot where this has happened. Not I've had hundreds of people come out here and train, and this has come up dozens of times. So it's not a one-off. When people have a thin cut down the rail, okay, suppose somebody's cutting a ball down the rail to their left. They're cutting it to their left down the rail. People in their minds, it's almost like I could see them thinking, and they're thinking, "Oh, this is a very thin cut. I want to make sure I cut this one thin enough." And then they get down really thin to where they're actually overcutting it. And then they start edging their aim in to make sure they're hitting enough of the ball to make the ball. And then they shoot and make the ball, and they end up with a tip of inside English on it. And they scratch cross corner because they're spinning it with inside.
yeah,
And I was like, why would people? I saw this a lot of times. Like, why would people put inside English when they're cutting a ball down the rail? not for positional reasons. Like they're trying to hit center, but they're almost scratching cross corner. Like, why? What are they doing? And I saw it more and more. People are in their mind. They're like, oh, I got to make sure I don't undercut this. They get down really thin. They edge in. Next thing you know, they're spinning the ball. And so that's the type of thing that I see that causes unwanted side spin a lot. So yeah,
Okay.
cool. Good on that.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, man. I mean, you see this stuff a lot more than I do, you know. I don't really I don't get to see a lot of players. I mean, I see people make mistakes, but I think that, you know, when people ask you questions, you're working with people training so much that you probably come across the root of a lot of people's problems a lot easier. You know what I mean? Like you can kind of reverse engineer it and figure out, well, see like what led them to have this problem, and I don't know. That's the way I'm viewing it, but
No, it makes sense. It's one thing like you know how to do it, and then, people can know how to do it, and then there's like seeing the common traps that people fall into, and I get to see those traps a little bit more. Okay, what about this? Um, I've had some people that are really struggling to relax their swing and slow their swing, where they're really quick hitty, jerky. What's the, like? I mean, almost like a little spasm, like their stroke, like they take their calm practice strokes, and then when they shoot, it's just like this little like twitch. How would you like, and they know that, and they're trying to smooth it out, they're trying to slow it down, but they just can't seem to, like, when it's time to pull the trigger, it just it's just kind of jerky. Thoughts?
sure. Um, so yeah, I would say
Your head is going like behind pine trees, like your background is coming in and out over
oh
your
really?
ears. It's like
That's funny.
the whole outline of your head is coming like in and out. It's like I'm on some weird
Oh,
trip.
I see. Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's funny.
It's really weird, man. This is
I
like
shouldn't have used
Salvador
the one you
Dali.
had, but yeah. Um, I'm sure there's different causes for this. I I have a little experience dealing with this, even as of like recent, where I'm not hitting balls all the time. So when I do get out to start like competing or whatever, I feel like I don't even want to say it's nerves, but it's like it's a little bit of anxiety with like kind of uncertainty of how I'm going to perform because I don't nothing feels great, you know, like I like it's almost like I'm just relearning the muscle memory as I go to like get warmed up. And when that happens, I feel like, you know, my breathing isn't the best. So my stroke is not as fluid. And definitely like when I'm getting closer to pulling the trigger, especially on shots that like, you know, maybe I'm not 1,000% certain I'm gonna make and end up okay on. I like the anxiety of the moment kind of, you know, comes into play, and then I get a little bit more pokey. And then I realize it after. I'm like, well, like why does that matter? Like why did I allow that to overtake the moment? And I guess where I would go with it is this is a lot easier said than done. But if you break it down and just realize that, you know, when you're practicing and when it means nothing, like you're very calm because you know that it's like if you miss the ball, you just set it up again and you figure out like what happened. You just try to adjust and do it again. And you have to find a way, like you have to constantly work on finding a way that when you're in competition to just treat each shot as it's just a shot, and like you can't have any embarrassment over the result. Even if you completely whiff it like a total hanger shot, it's okay. Like you don't have to be, again, it's easier said than done. Like we all have insecurity, we're all nervous about looking dumb, we all don't want to, like, you know, miss ball in hand, right, or like whatever we want to do. So you just it's more mental than it is the physical part, in my opinion.
Okay, so yeah, and we've talked. That's it's a cool idea. One thing I like to think about a lot is there's so many things. By the way, on my online coaching group, check out. You can also get my mental game training, which I'm a big fan of. So, uh, $20, man, you can access everything. But and then you can ask me questions, and I can give you custom answers that will haunt you. Um, there's one question is always like, how do I play in competition like I do on my home table? And my favorite, I usually like long answers, but my favorite short answer is compete enough that becomes your home table. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's kind of the thing you have to do is you just have to compete enough to where it's like I like honestly at this point in my life, I could turn my camera around. I have behind this earth here, behind the universe, you would see that I have a 9 foot diamond I'm sitting right next to. And I play far less on my home table than I do against other people. You know what I mean? I spar more. I probably play, you know what I mean? I play more in competition than I do on my home table. So that's how, yeah. So that's a good answer. Get comfortable, because one of the reasons people get quick with their swing is a lack of comfort, is a discomfort with the circumstances. So the more you can do to get comfortable, the better you're going to do with your swing. Now, in this case, I have the advantage of having seen the video of the person that was working with this. And what I will tell you is he was set up for failure from the start because his backswing was about 2 inches. He was not really taking a swing, and he was using a real short, like kind of hitty, flippy motion. And
Sure.
if you only come back 2 inches, you don't have time to accelerate smoothly. The only way to get up to speed, if you have a 2 inch runway, is to just full throttle twitch. So, like I talk about this, like if you're trying to get your car up to highway speed, if you're at a red light, turning right onto a state highway with cars coming 70 miles an hour, and you've got to get in and get an opening, like you have to take that right and you have to gun it to get up to speed before you get smashed. But if you have a quarter-mile downhill entrance ramp onto a highway, it's not hard to get up to 70 miles an hour without hammering the gas pedal because you have such a long runway. And so my advice for this person, having watched how short his swing was to lengthen his swing 8 to 10 inches. And by taking a long swing, you give yourself, you don't need to move so quickly. And then it just becomes a matter of like learning how your cue generates power without your help. And so I did a custom video for him. It's in this coaching group where I basically, but you guys can try this at home. Take an 8 or 10 inch backswing, and then just do like a practice swing. Where if you watch my back arm here, somewhere out there by Mars, you'll see I'm not trying to hit the ball. I'm not trying to add speed. I'm not trying to generate power. I'm just letting the cue swing back and forth, just like with the minimal amount of like, yeah, there's technically some force, but there's no muscle, there's no tension, there's no quickness, there's no power. And then what you do is you just let your arm swing through the cue ball and see what the cue stick will do without any help from you. And what I found kind of trying this just in this video I did for the guy the other day, it turns out that for me, with an 8 to 10 inch swing, as long as I let my cue swing through the cue ball, if I shoot a stop shot and just bank a ball up and down table, that ball goes like 3.5 rails, which is not hard, but fairly firm, fairly crisp. Like you can generate a fairly heavy hit that I would say is like 95% of your shots will be softer than that without any effort. And so I told him to play with that, just to quit trying to hit the ball and start finding out what the cue would do without any effort and just using that length. And I think that if people allow themselves to see what the cue will do with just a longer swing, then all of a sudden they might have some aha moments that, wait, I could just take a longer swing and guide this through the cue ball. And maybe on certain shots you can, give a little bit of follow through, a little bit of stank as you go through the cue ball, a little bit of acceleration, but it doesn't feel like anything like trying to hit the ball, right?
Yeah.
So I always think that the answer people are looking for is less, not more. It's less. It's you're not sculpting a pool game and adding to it. You're whittling away the parts that don't belong. And I think that, but one reason people might get quick is that if they don't have the runway, then you're forced to get quick because you don't have that alternative. So experiment with a little bit of length. And people are afraid that they're going to lose accuracy on the shot because of a longer swing. But really, when you take that longer swing, you can eliminate the muscle, and the muscle is the root cause of that inaccuracy. So add some length, get rid of the muscle, and then you'll actually see an increase in accuracy and power.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I would just make one like quick
Yeah.
segue or tangent from that would be I think on like the surface level it's all fundamental based. And for those people who have that same question who, at home they don't have the fundamental issue, their stroke is fine, they're coming through the ball very calm, then I would just say if you're in that boat, but then when you get into competition, you notice that it happens more, I would say that's where you really got to like take a deep dive into your own mental game and figure out. I would start asking yourself questions like why are you here to begin with at the competition? Like what is it about the scenario that's like making you uncomfortable? What results are you expecting that you're not getting? Where do you feel like personal shame or insecurity? You know what I mean? Because I mean I'm sure you have tons of experience with this as well, but I
What,
did
shame
battled
and
this like
insecurity? You asshole.
no, no, no. Well, no, not that, but dealing with like tensing up in competition over the years. We've all gone through the
Oh
stages,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
I still deal with it now. I think when I was playing pool all the time, like you said, when you're playing so much, you kind of overcome it just naturally because of repetition. But I deal with it a lot more now because I feel like so out of the game, you know. So I've been forced to kind of look deeper inside and figure out
Well, yeah,
why am I
yeah.
getting
So
paid in
so
competition versus not.
so to sum up what you just said, this makes perfect sense. If you're generating a smooth stroke at home and it's breaking down in competition, then it's probably check on the mental side because obviously you got the physical skills. But if you're unable to generate a nice, smooth, relaxed, powerful swing at home, then it's probably physical. So that's a good point. You know, is this a sometimes thing or an all the time thing? Like kind of the
Yeah.
same thing with unwanted sides, but I think that's always a good question when it comes to troubleshooting.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Pool's
cool.
tricky, man. Gosh, every time we talk about something in pool, I'm like, if we added up all the conversation we've had and like you realize how difficult the game actually is, but how simplified sometimes we can make it look.
You know, and I was hesitant to go here because I won't keep this one long, but I was thinking about the relationship with pool and how what you just said kind of makes me want to mention this. So, you know, I'm a pool teacher and I've been teaching now. Hey, first of all, I want to thank everybody that comes to Minnesota and trains with me, by the way. Many of you listening have been to Minnesota, you've done the dojo, and you are a part of my online group, and I appreciate the support. And, but man, it's a lot of work and it takes a lot of my competitive, a lot of my passion for pool gets parasitically like siphoned off by my students, right? And so then when it comes to my own goals and my own competition and stuff, and I think about where I'm at for myself, you know, I give a lot to the people around me. And so what I realized though is that my relationship with pool has like different seasons, just like a long-term relationship with a human, I guess, where you know, when I was a teenager, I was in that like infatuation stage, the honeymoon stage. Like I couldn't get enough pool. All I wanted to do was play pool, 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 right? And I just thought that that would like never end because I was just so hungry and every shot was new and how you can make it do this and how do you make it do that and did you see the shot so and so hit? And then you know the years go by and then pretty soon it becomes decades go by and it turns into like this other relationship where now you know you love the game and it's a big part of your life but the novelty of it's worn off. You've seen it kind of, you've seen everything at some point, you've seen it all, and now you're just kind of out there doing things, and it's not quite as explosive and fireworky, and it's a little bit more like kind of calm, quiet burns, showing up every day, you know, being present with the game, you know. And then, you know, this last 6 years I've been coaching, and you know, I'm getting a little older, and I've got to do it a little bit more for others, and and little by little, you know, once you make it your job, you know, I've never been a professional full-time player. That's never been my primary income, and I don't know what it means to travel internationally full-time like these guys are having to do nowadays. But I'll tell you, teaching full-time, you know, that what that means is that you know I do 3 days most weeks, and where ding the dong, you know, around the clock, and whether I feel like it or not, I've got to make it the most important training day of my life because they came here for this and it matters. And so it takes a lot out of you. And once you have to do it, even if you love the game, like once you have to do it, you're committed to doing it, and you look at your calendar and you're like, yep, you got to do it whether you feel like it or not. Um, it starts becoming hard at times, and there's times when it can be like a long-term relationship where sometimes it's a lot of work and sometimes it's not emotionally rewarding, and sometimes it can almost you can almost wonder like, why did I get into this again? And why am I doing this again? And I have to just keep doing this forever. I have to keep setting balls on tables and try to knock it back off tables again and again forever. Like, what is the point of all this again? And there's times when you almost reach a point where you're like, why do I do this? But fortunately for me, I have a functional, healthy, good long-term relationship with this game because right when it becomes a chore and right when you get to that point where I'm like, why do I still do this? Without a doubt, without exception, there's always I go and hit some balls with somebody and some fun situations come up, or it's exhilarating, or it's just fun to turn in a good set, or whatever. And all of a sudden something happens where I'm like, oh, that's why I love this game. That's why I'm a lifer. That's why I'm not going anywhere. And so I just thought about how it kind of mirrored a long-term relationship, and how, people listening to this, they might be in their infatuation stage, and other people that might be worried about, like, man, I'm losing my hunger or something. It's like, no, no, no. It's got stages, man. And so all I know is that I'm a lifer, and I'm a very loyal partner to pool. And so we may grow and change a little bit, but I'll always come back to this game. And I mean, I think that's the same for you. Like, you've been kind of going through some changes too with pool. And where are you at, man? Do you have any plans for 2026, or what are your thoughts on all that crap? You go.
Yeah. Well, I'll just start with the plans. I don't really have like obviously we have like our annual tournament this weekend, Seco Verani tournament. It's like I don't know how many years it's been running now, but good little bar table tournament down in southern Minnesota. So I have that, but I don't really have any pool plans for this year, to be honest. I'm just gonna kind of be focusing on business and family, taking some trips, living life. But if something comes up, you know me, I'm always willing to play if it kind of slides into the schedule correctly. So
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
see. Yeah, I just kind of leave it open. We'll see. But
But no Mosconi Cup run. No, nothing like that.
no, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll save that for the Mosconi segment. But no, I mean, yeah, my relationship with pool, like you said, similar in the sense that I've gone through different stages where, I mean, I used to play pool. I guess you could say it was full time, but it was really just being young and not really having any other responsibility or purpose in life. So I've done that, and I figured out really quickly that like the easiest way to make the most amount of money playing pool as full time is just to go to part time, and then your salary increases. So that was good. Didn't spend as much playing pool, but no, it's and your stress level changes too when you're not playing pool all the time. But you know, pool, like you said, you have to have I feel like it's per individual, but you have to have like a respect for the game and what it is, and you also have to understand like where your weaknesses are mentally when it comes to the game. That's any type of competition, right? Like people are this way with any of their hobbies, but for me, I've just gotten to this point where I still enjoy pool. I just realize that I have to like keep it at a certain distance because if I get too invested, then I get like upset that I can't perform at a higher level and get better results because I want more. But it's like teetering with the idea of how much of my normal life am I willing to sacrifice to chase that, and would it be worth it for me in the end? You
Yeah,
get
it's very funny because I was talking about the relationship and how it's like a relationship, and it really is, because you can develop a toxic relationship from the game if, like, the game is what it is, and it's going to do what it does. And so if people come in, and we've all gone through this, so I'm not trying to be general people. Like, if you or if I, like, if you get into a spot where you want things from the game that the game is not going to deliver, and then you put a lot of work and effort into the game with the expectation that it's going to reciprocate in ways that it's simply not going to, then you are going to feel resentful or betrayed or shortchanged, and you could develop negative feelings towards the game because you didn't get what you felt you were due. And a lot of people, a lot of good players, had expectations of how they were going to get paid off for it, and so there's a lot of players that are very jaded and bitter, and a little bit nasty. And you can tell the difference, like when you talk about, like, handicap tournaments or Fargo Cap tournaments, and how tough it is for players between 650 and 750 to have rewards in this game. It's one thing to be observational about that and talk about the landscape, but you could also hear a lot of rage and pain from people where it's like, ooh, that person didn't have a good relationship with the game, where, and I think that it's very funny because, I'm not getting into relationship conversations now, but like when you think about some of the best advice, it's like, how do you overcome resentment? And a lot of it is, letting go of expectations and understanding the reality of the situation and being appreciative of what is rather than resentful of what isn't. And when it comes to pool, that's really no different. Like, it's pool, we would all love to be number one in the world. We'd all love to make, hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars. We'd all love to be on the front cover of magazines and be awesome and be rewarded and recognized and paid off. And that's great. But like, but in the end, you have to see what is it actually doing. And so in the end, when people have their relationship with pool, you got to look at how it's working in your life. And if it's not working in your life, if you find yourself mad at your wife because she doesn't understand how important it is and she's not giving you more time and she doesn't let you go play more, or if you find yourself mad at your local players because they're not doing this or that, or if you're carrying around a bunch of anger or disappointment or hurt or different, if you're not having fun with the game's not going to change. So it's kind of you have to go change and find a way to develop a relationship. Like you're the only one. It's like you're in a relationship with a game that's not going to change at all in any way, and they're never going to grow. It's kind of like my ex. Okay, I have one goal, but like you just have to understand you're the only one that's capable of growth in this relationship. So if you're not smiling ear to ear while you're playing pool, then look at how you're managing your relationship with the game because it should be fun and it can be. It just
For sure.
it,
Yeah.
it just you just have to set the boundaries correctly.
Yep. Yeah, and that's I mean, I've been through every aspect of that. You and I have had so many long conversations on driving, like to tournaments where we've hit every corner of this conversation, but yeah, it is it is interesting to like kind of look back and realize like everything you said is just true, but like pool just it just is what it is, and it's like you can't try to squeeze something out of it, whether it be a financial return or a accomplishment. Like it just is what it is. You have to accept it, and like if it starts to feel toxic, then you got to kind of make some adjustments. I
Hundred
guess
percent, hundred
I guess a
percent.
good what would the moral of that be? The what's the pool excellence is about excellent pool. It's about
Oh
becoming
God,
like the color white thing.
yeah. This is
That's
no pinball, no bar, no pit,
yeah,
no
yeah.
bowling. This is Ames, Mister. No, I'm just
But that I mean there is a lot of I mean it's good to dumb saying, but like it does make a lot of sense. It's like at least for modern pool, right? It's like if you want to be at the top of your own personal game, it's like you really have to just become a certain version of yourself that's like not it's like not teetering on toxic, but it's not like so lax where you just don't care either. You just have to find the right spot for yourself. So
yeah, it's cool, man. It's cool. Yeah, it's funny. It wasn't really what I wanted to talk about today, but I hopefully there's somebody out there that's in a tough spot with their game and how the game fits in their life. And just in the end, if it feels good, do it. If you're enjoying it, do more of what you enjoy, do less of what you don't enjoy. Life's too short, man, to force yourself down some road that's miserable, thinking that it's
yeah.
going to pay off in the long run. Don't do it, man. Live for today. We're all going to die tomorrow. So let's just have a good time and run some
Yeah,
tables.
it's like, do you want to end up on a beach or do you want to end up floating in outer space? You
Yeah,
get
I
you
mean,
two
really.
life passes to go here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, really, what's funny is okay. I I don't know why, but I had a student that came and trained with me for 3 days, and at the end of which he had tickets to this concert, and he got me tickets to a concert. It was a really good time. So Marcus Lynch, thank you, sir. That was a good time. And we went to this show, and afterwards we Ubered home because I had a few drinks, and I rarely drink, so for me to have a few drinks, it was a big night for me. I went out on the town, and so we get back, and it's like 12:30. I'm a little tipsy, and so we're like, let's play some Scotch double straight pool. It's like 1 in the morning, and I'm like, so I'm like stumbling around the table, like, grab my cue, and I'm all excited. So we start playing Scotch double straight pool, and at some point he left me some really like he stuck me on the rail, jacked up, shooting some stupid shot. I'm like, kind of giving him the side eye, like, why am I here? But it's fine. And I just looked at him, and for some reason the game just was so simple that like all this stuff we were talking about, how complicated the game is, and I just looked at it, I'm like, Marcus, you get really down to it, it's a really simple game. You just have to ask one question. Just one question. Do you want to shoot the ball into the pocket or do you want to shoot the ball into the rail? That's really it. And in the moment, it seemed like the most profound thing. And I just got up and I shot the ball in the pocket. I'm like, I just want to shoot the ball into the pocket. Just shoot the ball into the pocket. It's really simple. Anyway, I could see maybe you had to be there, but like it was like this, like we were just looking at each other like it's so obvious. We discovered the secret, man. You just choose the pocket. Like at every shot, you get that little check. You just okay. All right, bail me out from this one. Let's move on. Let's talk Mosconi Cup, Jesse.
All right, all right.
All right, that was a good night though.
Yeah, that's
And you
funny.
know what? We did not run any hundreds, by the way. If you're wondering if a goose concert and a few pints of beer is the answer to elite pool, I'm coming back from the edge. of the universe to report. It is not. Okay. What were your thoughts on the Mosconi Cup, brother?
Yeah, so remind me, did somebody, I know we talked about it, somebody did reach out to you, right? Or at least maybe a few people did about wanting your opinions on the Mosconi Cup. Did they have any specific questions they were asking, or just in general they wanted you to kind of maybe do a
I
podcast on it?
think that the general question is why is it so difficult for the United States to put together a winning team? And is there anything that can be done to improve our chances? I think those are the kind of the questions.
Gotcha. So I guess that's fair. So
But you can take it wherever you want, man.
yeah,
Whatever, if there's stuff you wanted to share about Mosconi Cup.
well, I mean, I feel like that's all going to tie in. I don't have like a specific script here or anything, but at the end of the day, like everyone just kind of has to understand that the Mosconi Cup it's not, I mean, yes, it's a skill-based tournament. Like we put together really good players, but at the end of the day, that's not what it is. It's a entertainment program, like that's literally what it's there for. Matchroom doesn't put that on with boring players. So you have to have like a full package to get on the team, right? I mean, Europe is a little different because there's such powerful players that, like they actually, for the most part, they're earning their spots on there. But like when it comes to the American side, I think, you always hear the conversation about why isn't Bergman on the team, or Oscar has been snubbed so many years in a row that like even when he kind of earned it, wasn't in the top spot or whatever. I mean, I've heard people mention Mike DeShane recently again, like bring him back, and uh, you know, there's tons of good players in the United States, but from the player perspective, while it's everyone's dream to be on that team, I mean, I would love to be on the Mosconi Cup once in my life too, but from the player's perspective, they just can't make the sacrifice. They can't justify making the sacrifice they have to make to give themselves a small chance to get on the team, because you have to realize that Shane is a lock to get on that team every year, even if somehow he didn't.
So
If
real quick, I know this sounds crazy, but there might be somebody listening that doesn't know the Mosconi Cup or the format. So for
okay,
somebody that's tuning in, I just want to state it's a U.S. versus Europe 5-person team where we take 5 U.S. players against 5 European players. And what Jesse's referring to right now is the selection of the team involves we have 3 people out of the 5 that are earned their spot based on
money won in
the
matchroom
prize.
events.
So like prize earnings. So like the top 3 prize earners are automatically getting the top 3 spots, and then the fourth and fifth spot are captain's choice. Is that correct?
From what, yeah, at least it was this year.
Okay.
And
So with
yeah,
that being said, so now what you're saying is it's hard to compete because Shane is going to lock in the top spot.
yep. And in all reality, like no one's gonna beat out Federer at this point. Like he
Oh,
just played too
yeah,
good.
because he's U.S. Right.
Yeah, well
So Federer and
yeah,
Shane
now
are
he's
locked in
US.
at spots number 1 and 2. Yep.
So like while that did in some ways like help the team with a player, it hurt the team in terms of like building stronger players for the future, because from a player's perspective, again, to spend all this money in travel, that's one less spot that they can earn. So now it's like realistically, you're playing to earn one spot. And then if you don't earn that spot, now you have to be still high up there in the money to even be considered, but you also have to like kind of play into I don't know, I don't want to say it in a poor way, but like there is politics in it, right? Like
Yeah. Well,
there
once
was
you
a lot
get
of
once so what I just want to make it really clear. I understand what you're saying. You're saying since we've got Federer and Shane that are always going to get the top 2 spots, that basically means that in terms of merit-based enrollment, there's only one other spot that you can earn your way into, and you have to compete and get past Sky and Steyer. And
yep,
so really what that means is for people that are seriously interested in that spot, but because if they're not in the top 3, they can't count on being chosen for spots 4 and 5 when there's things like favoritism, team chemistry, whatever. And so that reduces the opportunity for people to qualify based on skill, and you're saying that kind of de-incentivizes people from pursuing the tournament trails, trying to fight for that one spot.
correct. Yeah. And I think that a lot of people do understand that once they kind of get into the conversation. It still frustrates them because you know, when you're an American person, you want to see America win. I mean, I would love to see America win. I always throw in the Mosconi Cup every year. I know that they have like next to no chance realistically, but it's still fun to watch. It's an exciting event, whatever. But but yeah, at the end of the day, it's not really set up in America right now to bring in the actual best five players at that time, just based on everything we just said. And you know, we don't have any power over that. I don't think that there's I don't really foresee that changing, to be honest, because it just doesn't play into what Matchroom wants, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's their product; they get to do what they want with it. But that's where I just think that a lot of the fans, instead of getting upset, they should just understand it just is what it is, and that's how it's going to be. It's I don't know. I mean, there's really no other way
So
to explain
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. But let's look at one thing because I hear everybody from the future telepathically screaming in my ears. You're saying that one of the problems is because of the way that the team is selected, because of the two captains' choices, and because Federer and Shane are monopolizing the meritocracy based admissions, that disincentivizes a lot of players. So guys like Mike DeShane, Justin Bergman, Oscar Dominguez, guys that actually took a shot at making the Mosconi Cup just in recent years, kind of decided that they weren't going to chase it last year for those reasons. And you're looking at that and saying that's one of the reasons why we're not getting our best players to show up and fight for these spots, and it's hard to put together our best team. But what everybody in my head is shouting is this: it doesn't matter because you can still take our top five players and stack them in any order you want, and we just don't have the firepower to win Mosconi Cups against Europe, even if you could sculpt your top five.
Correct. And I would 100% wholeheartedly agree with that. I
Okay,
was just touching on the idea of like why the team selection process itself
sure,
uh,
sure.
isn't really fully merit based, even if that hurts people's feelings or whatever. It's just what it is. But yes, no matter what, you're giving up like I don't know what the average European Fargo rate is that gets on that team if you looked at the stats for the past 5 to 10 years. But every year, you know, we're basically spotting them like somewhere between like 50 and 100 Fargo points, which probably doesn't seem like a ton,
Oh,
but
it
at
sounds
the high,
impossible.
but at
Yeah.
the highest level it is. That's like, I mean, it's crazy, it's like a
So
scratch golfer playing a guy with a six handicap. It's like that they're going to torch the guy.
so
So
why?
that's
Yeah.
essentially what we're
What would you say? Like, if somebody's like, well, why can't the U.S. produce a roster of players that play 820 plus Fargo? Why is
doing.
it so hard for the U.S. to develop a roster of 825s?
Sure. And my opinion on this would be I do think there is cultural differences over in Europe, not to get too much in that, but I think that they respect high level competition more when it comes to pool, as in I'm sure there is handicap set up over there. There's different like, level of leagues where the top players can't get in, whatever. But they have something like the Euro Tour, right? And they've had that forever. They have other smaller events in different countries, right? Where it's not everybody going around like trying to scam like kind of like game a handicap system, right? Whereas in America, everything is very heavily based on that. I mean, you can go on Facebook any day of the week and you'll see a dozen new random tournaments that are Fargo rate 499 and under, 575 and under, and there's almost never any open tournaments, right? So like that all kind of plays into it, and it's just the nature of what pool is, but that does take away from players at the top. So then like when you get to these players that are like even around our speed that are anywhere whatever you're playing between like 7 and 740, 750, whatever it's going to be, those players like they can't ever reach a peak because they're not really allowed to compete unless they're going to sell their entire life out to go chase a dream. And then even then, they're way behind in the race because they're not getting into that same level of competition as like Europeans are. So even if you give yourself the quote unquote opportunity, you still don't get as many as at bats, and you're not surrounded by top level players around here as much to compete against all the time. That is starting to change now, right? There is more tournaments, but back when you and I were traveling to tournaments together, early 2010, 11, 12, somewhere in there, there was only what, like five or six major tournaments a year, and the majors were like Turning Stone, a seminal event, you know what I mean? There just
Dude,
wasn't.
yeah, there was a number of years there. People forget maybe what it was like before Matchroom. It was not a well established tournament trail.
Yeah, so I mean, I just think that does that takes a like a huge or that has a huge impact on American pool, and I'm not saying that to complain. I'm just stating facts of what I think kind of played into it, and that's going to take a long time to repair. If unless you have a great foundation of like the different skill level tournaments, not handicaps, but like where the quote unquote like semi-pro like shortstop type of players have a reason to continue to play, and there has to be somewhat of an economy involved in that where that allows them to continue to play and profit on some level, because nobody's going to play and just spend $1,000 every year to
So
try to get
you're
better at a
saying that
game.
you're talking about like a minor league for for U.S. pool players to where they can be rewarded and incentivized. What I would say though is that with social media, people are getting social. We've talked about the social support, whether it's selling raffle tickets or doing
Yeah.
coaching lessons or being influencers, but it seems that instead of playing semi-pro tournaments and winning money that way, it seems like there's the new gen is using social media influence to kind of fundraise to make that possible to be still be a lifestyle to some extent. So maybe there's some hybrid where it's not just about tournament availability; it's also technology is changing how things work, right?
It is, yeah. I mean, if we want to go on that tangent, like we have, I have some opinions on that too. I think we've talked about that in previous podcasts or whatever. But in relation to like the Mosconi Cup, I just don't think that that helps build a better team though, because all that really is it's just it's a different skill set to be an influencer, to be able to kind of massage the social, the social atmosphere for support and money and all these different things that allow that lifestyle to happen. And that's just the nature of what pools become in America. And that's, again, it's totally fine. It's just I don't think that that breeds the top level players. I like Shane didn't get to where he's at um doing raffles on Facebook. He got there by like getting in the box day after day and just making sure that he could be the best player he could be. It's the same with the guy like Justin Bergman. I mean, is the same
Yeah.
way. He was nonstop playing and just built himself up until he got there, and then kind of became the mix after he got the skill
Well,
set.
one thing that I've been thinking about, so when people talk about this, like why can't the U.S. put together a roster of 820s? One question I think is interesting is, have we gotten worse or have we stayed the same and the rest of the world has just gotten bigger? And it's hard because when we look back, of course, in the 80s and 90s, now we're 30, 40 years ago, it's hard to compare. But when I think about like the late 90s to like, say like 1998 to 2007, right before Shane came in, there was like 8 or 9 years where if you looked at like who were the best players in our country, Corey Deuel was winning tournaments. Danny Basovich was winning tournaments. Mike Davis was winning tournaments. We had U.S. Open winners, 3 U.S. Open winners: Jeremy Jones, Gabe Owens, and John Schmidt. All very good players, but none of those guys are 820 plus. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so when you look at the pool scene from like 1998 to like 2007, there was like a 10-year stretch. Now maybe that it was probably like the collapse of the Camel Tour in the mid 90s, but even back then, like if you look at the Camel Tour, um, yeah, you had Efren Reyes was international, and then it's like who do we have? We had Earl, we had Johnny, and then we had like you know I'll tell you what, man, our roster, we had a couple of great players, and then we had a lot of very, very good players. And if you look at the U.S. roster, that's kind of the way it's always been. We've had a few really, really, we've had a couple of champions and then a lot of really good players. And if you look at the guys today, like if in the U.S., and you mentioned, Bergman and Deshane and Dominguez, it's like if you looked at, yeah, you've got Shane, you've got Sky, and then you've got a bunch of guys that are very, very, very good. And I don't know that it's that much different than it was 20 years ago. So I would think that the U.S. hasn't gotten worse at pool. I just think that what's happened is the competition has gotten wider and deeper, and that as the competition gets wider and deeper, and so you've gone to where all of a sudden you've got because you think about like where are the best players in the world from? Like Federer came from Russia. You've got Josh Filler from Germany, but it's not like Germany and Russia are just known for turning out the best in the world. It's like that just happens to be. You just have this huge pool world, and it just happens to be. Oh, Aloysius Yap. You got like a few players that happen to get to the very top. And who could have predicted? Like, you can't predict that the next champion is going to come from Germany or does it come from Russia? You don't know because it's so hard to get there. So what's my point? My point is that the rest of the world came on. It just the sheer numbers of it means that by just even random distribution. We're going to have more and more top players from all over the world, and it's going to make it more and more difficult to be competitive. And so in the past, guys like Bergman and Duchesne could have still competed because if this was 2004, those guys would still be dominant enough to be competitive. Nowadays, it's if you're not exactly Shane, it's just not, you can't really get there anymore. And so
Yeah.
I think that the rest, I don't think we got worse. I think the rest of the world got better and deeper. And that what happened was that we have a similar roster to what we had before, but that anybody that's not exactly number one or two in the US just no longer has room to compete internationally. And then it just makes it look like we're really staying on the bench when reality is it's just hard to get on the bench.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing I was going to say with that too is that, the qualifying events of how Matchroom runs them, when they have the ones in the States, like didn't take long for the European guys and some of the Asian guys to realize that it was well, I mean more of the Europeans for the Mosconi, right? That it's like may as well just come over here and clean up the easy money, like to get more points and have a shot. So what that does is it's like that just diminishes that opportunity for the American player even more because like you said, that guys, I mean Bergman, he's a great player. He could still compete if he really wants to and train, but for the like the next tier down guys, like those extra few hard matches in tournaments consistently, that has a huge damper on their ability to compete to the point where they're like, well, it's actually worth to travel around this year versus I'm just going to stay home and rob the local tournaments and then get a job and do whatever. So I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
we were
caused
talking about it once. The way tournament prize money works, if you look at like what first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth pays, it's a very, very top heavy payouts. I remember one of my favorite stories. There was a guy, I won't mention his name, but he was starting to do well in pro tournaments. This is like 20 years ago, and he was like really explaining to his wife how good he was playing and how deep he was going, and he was explaining he wanted to go to this one tournament, and he's like, it pays like 10,000 for first, and she says to him, what's 17th through 24th pay?
That's funny.
And it's just the most cold-blooded thing, but it's like that's the reality. So anyway, why did I get into this? Hang on, I'm losing my train of thought. You just said that
Like the
because
Europeans in the match events, yeah.
what I was going to say is if you look at a tournament, and even Seagull, the tournament you're playing, this little Minnesota championship here you're playing, it's a great example. If you have a payout, if you're whatever your Fargo 740 something, I don't know, but like whatever your Fargo is, if you play that tournament, if there's only one other player that's 700 Fargo, and you run a simulation of how much you're going to average, and then you make it five players that are over 700, then you run the simulation. It's amazing at how much different your average earnings would be. And of course, now you've got a bunch of guys that are coming in from all over, and that tournament's getting even tougher. But like,
Yeah.
it's so to go to a tournament where you're a heavy favorite to do well. Like if you're Justin Bergman, it's like, hey, it's going to be me and John Mora and nobody else. Compared to there's also going to be four guys that are international players that are better than me, and like just all of a sudden, instead of expecting to get to the finals, you're like, you might not even get in the Calcutta. And that's a huge difference. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I think, not that this is ever going to happen, but if it was Matchroom's like true goal to turn out or to get the participation of the top American players and turn out the best possible team each year, my opinion is like the only way that that would work is you'd unfortunately have to bar all the top players from Europe and Asia from coming to play in the like our like pro allowed level tournaments here, which again, that's not really their goal. But that's the only way that you would actually be able to turn out all the best players from America, and you'd have to like cater to the players so much that it would have to be so affordable and like easily attainable for everybody else because people have normal lives and it's not going to happen. It's a total like
Yeah,
utopian
you'd have to
idea.
have a U.S. tour for the U.S. citizens, and have it be like weekends, and have it be some kind of point thing where maybe some seating and some really like you'd have to build it. You'd have to reverse engineer design to try to find a way to scout and recognize and reward and incentivize talent.
Yeah, and that's obviously not what they're going to do. It's much easier for them to just go the other way. And
And
if
what's amazing is that if you had a committee of 12 people whose entire lives were devoted, they were on some board of directors and they were part of a nonprofit organization whose sole mission statement was to do everything possible to destroy American pool culture and destroy our future players. Um, they probably couldn't run it any better than what we're just doing on our own. No, okay.
that's
Uh,
true, yeah.
But no, seriously, the other thing I wanted to mention though is I was talking about 20 years ago and how things have changed. The thing that you got to remember too for people is you got to have perspective. One of the reasons I choose to be floating in front of this earth is to remind people of perspective, and that is time. Time. This planet's been around 4.5 billion years. We've been playing pool. Listen, how long has this been an issue? Right now it feels like it's been forever. Like, oh my God, Europe, they always kill us. And what's wrong with the US? Here's the thing. Suppose something happened to affect Americans, the United States' ability to compete at the international level. What would be like a reasonable response time? I mean, if something changes in the world and all of a sudden the United States isn't on top when it comes to pool, you're not going to expect that to like swing back in 6 months. Like it's going to take time. So like, how long has this really been an issue? And the answer is really 15, 20 years, 15, 20 years. Like even in 2010, 2011, we were going to those Seminole. You mentioned the Seminole events. Even back then at the Seminole events, I didn't feel like the international scene had passed US by. Now, maybe it was represented, maybe it was competitive, maybe pool was no longer dominant in the US, but we weren't lost at sea and we were still winning our share of Mosconi Cups. That was like 15 years ago. So really, how long has it really been since the US has been like kind of overshadowed? And I would say, what, like 10 to 15 years, right? 10 years, 12
Yeah,
years.
yeah, and then if you correlate that with what's also happened in pool, is there has been like a surplus of, or like a certain level, like there's been a surge of money that's been dumped into pool on the international scale. So it's not that we weren't surpassed, in my opinion. It's just that the money brought those people out of the weeds, and then now you see like, oh, we've been far behind for a while. It's just that we never knew about these players because they had no incentive to leave their
Fair,
country. So
fair.
now we're seeing like, oh, we're actually way behind and we're not
Okay.
going to come back,
So
you know?
let's measure off of that event though, because I don't care about the years that we didn't know about all the great champions. Because to my point, how could the US respond to a threat they didn't even understand yet? So let's just say it's been 10, 12 years. Like it's just I was talking about relationships and pool relationships. It's very funny. It's kind of like that in a relationship too. Certain things that while they're ongoing, it feels like forever. But then you look back and it's like, it was just a short period of time. It was like a bad year. Well, I would say with pool, it feels like right now the US is losing year after year and what's wrong with us. But I'd be like, man, we've only been getting roughed up for a decade now. It's been 10 years, maybe 12. Like we need time to respond because what's not going to happen is you know we can't count on the players that we're currently playing in 2014 to suddenly just go back to work and pick up 80 Fargo points. So what has to happen is first we have to recognize that there's a problem. We have to start losing. We have to start seeing that. And then it takes time for people to kind of like come on the scene and start, setting goals to meet those new standards and exceed those new standards. And the part of the problem is even if there was players in 2015, people might not have really realized we'd fallen behind. People might not have realized that the standards had moved, the goalposts had moved until 2018. And all of a sudden by 2018, the players that were starting pool seriously then are maybe they're coming on the scene now, but pool has also grown even since 2018. So it's happened. It's continuously evolving. It's continuously improving. It's continuously getting stronger. And I just think that, well, I'm a little bit, I can understand your pessimism about when people talk about, Fargo caps and handicaps and bar tables and all the things that the US is doing wrong. I can look at that and say, yeah, that's fair. But it could just be that all we really need is 3, 4 guys that come along and learn how to play 850 pool. And that could happen. And it might just take it might just take a little time for the right players to figure it out and come along at the right time. And it just hasn't been that long for that to happen. That's all I'm saying. It's only been 10 years and that the game has gotten tougher and that maybe there's some kids in the US right now that are 13 years old and running 100 balls and they're going to be in 5 more years it could look different. So and then if it does, here's my only point is if by 2030 we've got a bunch of guys that are playing 820 to 840 pool out of the States and they're winning majors and representing at the highest level. And then that becomes kind of standard again. Like we might look back and be like, yeah, there was like a 10-year stretch while we were going through, while the game became international where there was a little lull there between champions and it'll look like no big deal. But so to like make this too global and eternal, it might not be an eternal, problem. It might just be some growing pains.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, I guess that's a very fair outlook on it. I feel like the lack of gravity up there is probably getting your head a little bit and giving you
I'm
some
thinning out.
but
I'm getting a little thin on oxygen for sure.
no, no, I do think there could be a change. Like you said, you just need the right amount of players that are, like you only need 3 to 5 players that are dedicated enough that want to get to that level. I guess I wouldn't say it's impossible. I would just say if we had a better infrastructure in place that's better fit to breed those types of players, then I would, I'm not even being pessimistic. I'm just kind of observing us all, I
Yep.
think if we had a
Yep.
better infrastructure, we would have a better chance.
And I think that infrastructure is good for getting a lot of people to a high level. But when it comes to finding somebody that's going to get to the 850 level, you almost need somebody that's going to make their own road. Like I look at Shane. I mean, he grew
Yeah,
up playing in leagues on bar tables at a place where there was no good competition in his area. And I mean, by any metrics, if you said there's going to be a guy that grows up in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, in a pool room with bar tables and league players, and he's going to in his basement practice his way to become the best in the world, you just say that's not possible. But he made
right.
it happen because of who he is and what was inside of him. And if we're talking about how to get a roster and how to build the best culture and build the deepest roster in the States, then yes, infrastructure matters. But if what we need is two guys that can play 850 pool, then what we really need is two guys to just go do it. Yep.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, this would
So
be
I
a
will I will throw, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna do my part. And because we have to, you get what you manifest in the world.
oh
So
boy.
here is a $5 bill, and for the next U.S. player that breaks 850 Fargo, besides Shane, you just email me at info@mnpoolbootcamp.com with a screenshot of your Fargo rate over 850, and I will kick in. Oh, that just disappeared.
Yeah.
That's that must be like
And it's gone.
it's gone. That's like kind of a metaphor for pool money. Anyway,
Yeah.
there you go. I'm putting my
Well,
money where my mouth is, kid.
I I'm gonna bet on inflation to wipe that $5 bill out before 850 comes around. But yeah, I mean, obviously it's gonna happen eventually where 1 or 2 Americans hit that level. It's just gonna happen. But yeah, I just don't know if it's gonna be sustainable as and that's okay. If you're really tied to the results of the Mosconi Cup, or if you view it as like some sort of what is it like a space race type of cultural war like back in the day, it's like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
this isn't
Like Bobby
America versus
Fischer
the
beating the
world.
Russians at chess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like it's just it's just a game, and it's like it's a game, it's an entertainment event. Just enjoy it for what it is. The players who get chosen, regardless if you agree or not, they are great players. They're fun to watch, in their own way, and I don't know. It's just yeah, it is tough to see people be so hard on players in that environment. Like I know that people are. I watched the whole thing this year. I had some time off, and I like I saw some shots that like Tyler missed, and like he took a lot of heat online, and it's like man, like it's so tough, man. It's so tough to be in that environment. I've never been there, but I know what it's like to play on a reasonably tough stage, and it's like the normal person who plays pool has no idea what's going on in that person's head in that environment when they're being screamed at and like there's just so much pressure that they don't
So
understand.
I will say it quite simply. These guys that are playing out there, whether they're 850 or 780, they are so good. They are so good, and they are so much better. They are so much better than the people that are watching think that they're better by. And and meanwhile, the pressure out there is so much hotter than anybody can even imagine. And I was talking to Dave about this last night. I was talking about order of magnitudes, and I was saying that people don't understand how tough it is to make it in pool. And it's like if you have a guy that's like we were talking about, like if a guy's like a low to mid 700 that's like I'm going to go out, play full time, and try to make it in pool. That it's not just that it's harder than they think it's going to be. It's the order of magnitude. I said it would be like a 5-year-old that decided that they want to for Christmas that they want to go to the North Pole. They're going to walk to the North Pole, and then you're like, okay, it's pretty cold. That's a long walk. And they're like, well, I've been to my school before, and that's a long walk, and so I know that if it's probably a little bit longer than that. It's like no, your school is half a mile away. The North Pole is thousands of miles away, plus Arctic conditions. So like when people think like, oh, I'm going to go out and make it in pro pool, they're not just off by Oh, it's hard. It's like they're off by that level of order of magnitude to where it becomes comical to explain to people that don't really understand how far that journey is. And so this, I talked about it before. The same thing when people are setting their goals that they want to be 700 Fargo. It's like it's a fine goal, but it's a serious undertaking. So why do I bring this up? Because we were talking about remind me. What? Sorry, Jesse. Why did I bring this up? Order of magnitude. How? Oh, because you're talking about the Mosconi Cup and the pressure and how hard people are on these guys. They have no idea. They can't conceive of what that experience is because if people had ever been, well, first of all, it's impossible they've ever been under pressure like that because and anybody that had would never type the things that these guys type. So you
Right.
can just tell, like, when people type stuff that criticizes those kinds of mistakes, what they're really typing is, I, in my journeys, have never encountered anything nearly that challenging in my life. Because obviously, there's two stories you can tell. You could either say these guys are a bunch of losers, why do we put them on the team? Or you could say maybe, just maybe, they're up against something that's harder than anything I've been up against. And people just go right to, oh, these guys are a bunch of bums. It's like, no, these guys are far better than you could ever imagine. And watching these types of mistakes happen is just a testimony to what types of pressure they're willing to put themselves under. And so Tyler, man, for him to go and put himself in those spots where the team is up against it and they're down on points and things aren't going bad and you can face difficult situations, and then when you make mistakes, you're going to get that type of response from our country. Like, that's a level of pressure that all you could do. Yeah, you don't have to applaud that he missed, but you got to applaud that he got in the ring, he took it on, and he handled it like a champion. So, yeah, man, I just think when people are critical, it just makes them look very ignorant.
Yeah, and the other thing too is we've probably all experienced this on our own level. Whereas, of course, when they do like what is it, like the pre-press conference thing, they do
Oh, they
those now
talk
to
a little
kind of hype
smack.
people up. Uh, You could talk to them about their chances and all. Like America's like, yeah, I think we're ready, we're the favorite. Like they got to say what they got to say, but deep down, everybody in the American team knows that they're a heavy dog, and some of them might admit it in the press conference. But what people like can't really understand is when you feel like you really don't have a shot to win, that changes the way you are as a player. Like it's hard to explain it. You know how it is because when you're dominating on like a local or regional level, you actually feel that like even when you're in tough sets, you don't realize how tough they are because you're just like, yeah, this is gonna work out. The guy's gonna dog it somehow. Like these guys better come with their A game, otherwise, I'm going to win. That's how you feel. You got the momentum on your side, and that's what Europe has because they've been winning, and also like fundamentally they are just better players. So I mean, when you have that, it's like, how are you supposed to feel confident? If you and I went and played 2-on-2 against two random NBA players, like
Yeah, and
we could
the other thing
we could
is that when you're
not
playing,
win.
the other thing I'll say is that the format is really a tough one. When you are playing one on one against a better player, you can have doubts, you can have fears, you can have negative momentum. However, if you catch a gear and get a little momentum going and your opponent starts struggling, even if they're a better player, you might outplay them for a period of time. The problem with the Mosconi Cup is it's just this never ending series of super short sprints with 5 different players on each team. So
Yeah.
the problem is, to try to be up against it is a much stickier spot than a one-on-one. If you had Tyler Steyer square off against, Moritz Neuhausen one-on-one, Tyler could catch a gear and get striking very confidently, and there might be a time when he runs away with it. But when you have 5 guys in the U.S. that are all struggling with being an underdog, all are up against it, and are all struggling with that negative energy and negative momentum, to have a team turn that momentum around means all 5 people have to fire. And when all 5 people are struggling and on their back and feeling negative momentum and down to the score and outclassed, for that to turn around when you have a series of short sprints, and then even if you turn it around, you get 1 point, then you get a leg again, and it's like, man, it's hard. It's a hard ship to steer. That's a hard barge to avoid it's a big iceberg to try to dodge.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's hard,
So
man.
it's a tough format to be an underdog. So
Yeah.
cool. All right. I'm good, Jesse. You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Well, thanks for joining. I'm going to wrap it up, guys. Let's go. I'm got you got me hungry. I was talking about the relationship with Pool right now. I kind of got a little fired up. I had this. By the way, these bubblers. carbonated water, flavor, a little touch of orange, and they have enough caffeine in them to they're not an energy drink, but they got a little something. So check out Bubbler in your area, and then look me up, info@mnpoolbootcamp.com. Shoot me an email, tell me when you want to get together, and let's go. All right, I'll catch you later.
All right, see ya.